Insperity presents the Small Business Advocate Show with Jim Blasingame, brought to you by FedEx, CareerBuilder.com, and Palo Alto Software. This is a copyrighted production of Small Business Network, Inc., all rights reserved.
That's Booker T and the MGs. That's called Time is Tight. That's the way it is on a talk show. A talk show is an imprecise activity in a precise environment. 17 till, I'm Jim Blasingame. I am the Small Business Advocate. Please check out my website, smallbusinessadvocate.com. We're having a great visit with our good friend Mike Menzies. Mike is the president of Eastern Bank and Trust. He's an independent community banker, and that means he is my friend and your friend. Ladies and gentlemen, anybody who works for an independent community bank, for a community bank out on Main Street in America, those people are your friends, whether you do business with them or not. Mike, thanks again for joining us. Thanks for all that you do for small business. Mike is also, folks, a volunteer leader of the Independent Community Bankers of America. You had your convention last week. We were out there. We had a great time whooping it up on behalf of Main Street. Mike, I learned a lot while I was there. I enjoyed the speeches, the presentations I saw on the way the banking industry breaks down were fascinating, weren't they?
Oh yeah, it was a great experience, a great learning experience for all the community bankers that went out there. We had well in excess of 3,000 participants in the convention, and it was a very productive learning exercise. The presenters, including Marty Gruenberg, who is the head of the FDIC,
right. I really enjoyed his speech.
Yeah, Marty did a great job, and he reminded us. that while over the past 26 years the industry has shrunk from 17-some thousand banks to about 7,000 banks, and the community banks have gone from about 40% of the assets to about 14% of the assets. Mm-hmm. Today, community banks still do over 46% of all of the small business and farm loans. Mm-hmm. So the role that these community banks continue to play in their communities is unbelievably valuable. And that was reinforced by the FDIC, who very much is in the court of establishing ways to sustain and to retain the community banking contribution to our economy. And that is a refreshing thought coming out of a regulator.
Right. And let me say this, Mike.
It's important to them.
Let me stick a number in there. We polled our audience this week on our online poll about who do you do business with. Do you do business with big banks, community banks, or credit unions? And over half, 54% of our respondents said that they did business with community banks.
Yeah, wonderful. I mean, and that is a tribute to the fact that the community banking model can sustain itself. The FDIC study said that you don't have to be a trillion-dollar company to make a major contribution to your community.
That's right.
And that, in fact, is going on. Now, we're all going through a business model change in the community banking business because of the recession and the meltdown. Mm-hmm. It was Wall Street driven and big bank driven. We're all going through that correction.
Main Street didn't cause it, but Main Street is paying a price for it.
Yes, you've used the terminology collateral damage, and we were collateral damage. But we survived that, and I love our executive statement about community banks when Cam Fine says, community banks are just like cockroaches. We just won't go away. So that's true. We're not going to go away.
Well, and I hope not, Mike, because as my audience knows, I talk about community banks all the time on this show, when you're here or whether you're not here, and the reason is because I believe that as community banks go, so goes small businesses in America. I just don't think we can have one without the other. I don't even want to think about a world where small business owners can only get their financial support from big banks, from a computer credit score. I just can't even imagine how entrepreneurship would change. But back to the to what we learned there. I thought Mr. Grunberg's comments and his sentiments, the FDIC chief. I was worried about the FDIC, but he made a commitment in that speech. He said, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, I am in favor of supporting and in favor of a healthy independent community bank sector. I was glad to hear him say that. What did you think about Mr. Cordray, the guy who's in charge of the Consumer Finance Division? What did you think about Mr. Cordray's comments?
Well, Richard Cordray, I think the first thing you have to evaluate or understand that this gentleman was an attorney general in the state of Ohio, and his mission is consumer protection. And that's got to be accepted. That's part of the Dodd-Frank legislation. Right. That's his job. Now, with that said, none of the community banks believe that any of the CFPB pronouncements and efforts
right.
Were needed by community banks.
Right.
We have been common sense lenders, and protecting our customers has always been a core value of community banking. And as a result, when new regulations are promulgated, like this most recent mortgage regulation, which you'll learn about down the road, called qualified mortgage, presents an enormous burden on the community banks. An enormous burden. It's hard to describe. And frankly, it could impair our ability to lend into our communities.
Yeah.
What I'm encouraged about is that Mr. Cordray has been sensitive in listening to the ICBA and listening to community banks. And he's been very open and sensitive, and that dialogue is important.
I don't know how sincere he is. I don't know the man. But his words, when I heard him give his speech, his words were very encouraging. That he was, as you say, interested. He did say the words that made me think he understands the uniqueness and the unique importance of community banks to Main Street America. Mike, hold on to that thought. Quick.
Insperity presents the Small Business Advocate Show with Jim Blasingame, brought to you by FedEx, CareerBuilder.com, and Palo Alto Software. This is a copyrighted production of Small Business Network, Inc., intended for the private use of our audience. Except as otherwise provided by copyright law, all other copying, redistribution, or publication without prior written consent is prohibited. All rights reserved.